Earlier this month, I had a nervous breakdown. Although December is filled with festivity and joy for a lot of people, it's the most difficult time of year. In a year full of trials and tribulations, it's more important than ever for us to look after and speak up about our mental health. For men in particular, this has always been a very taboo subject. Most of the men that I reached out to about this project said that they either didn't feel comfortable talking about it or they didn't feel comfortable talking about it on camera. I'm grateful for the consideration. For me, that kind of just reinforced the need to make this project. I have put together the composition in the best way that I could. I'm not a video editor by any means, so forgive me for the production value, but the content I think is really important, and so I hope it resonates with you anyway. I also really want and need to give a special thanks to Alwyn and Craig and Kieran and Tamba. You guys reflected on this and shared it with me and are sharing it with the world. Your honesty and openness and bravery in doing so, without you guys, this project wouldn't have been possible. So special thank you to you, and without further ado.
The first thing that comes to mind when I think about Christmas, I think family, presents, food, whole heap of food, and alcohol. Getting drunk, time to just chill, kick back, watch some films. Yeah, it's just a nice way to end the year. Plus, my birthday comes pretty soon after, so that's important also.
So the first thing that comes to mind for me when I think about Christmas is family. I like when everyone gets together, has a good time, has a laugh, forget about any hard things you've had to go through the year, and sort of just relax and be together.
When I think about Christmas, I think about family, mostly because it's always been a huge part of what we have done as a family, and around Christmas time it's always been about my relatives coming around, just a nice big family environment.
The first thing that comes to mind when I think of Christmas is most definitely Christmas dinner, and the more pigs and blankets, the better.
The first image that comes to mind is me and my younger brother sitting on the floor in front of a Christmas tree, my mum and my sister on the sofas behind us, telling us what to do, what to open. Like, you know that meme where it's poking a brother on the floor with a stick, like, do something. Like, that's what it was like.
The thing I enjoy most about Christmas is getting a few days off work to just chill, relax with family.
When I was a kid, it was going to church. Like, my dad being a minister meant church on Christmas mornings, and it was a black church, so it took a few hours. And it was waiting patiently through church till we could come home and open presents.
We don't really have many traditions. Myself, last couple of years, me and Abby have just had Christmas Day on our own, and then gone to see family on Boxing Day, etc. When I was a kid, we used to go round to my nan's house. We'd have a big party at my nan's. She put a big buffet on. It was ace.
If I had to pick one thing, I mean, as much as I love my food, it had to be family. I mean, to be honest, where there's family, there's food. As I'm sure it probably runs for most people. Family. I don't get to see my family that often. Most of them live down the southeast of England, like London, some of them Kent, Brighton, and then on my dad's side in South Wales. So yeah, I don't really get to see them much. It's nice, man. It's nice getting to catch up with family, and yeah, it's been that way ever since I was a kid. It's always been massively family oriented.
That's probably my favourite thing about it as well. Just the fact that everyone gets together, has a good time, you know, can have a drink, and on the most part it's a nice, good family experience. My favourite memory would have to be from when I was a lot younger. So my sister had got this amazing sort of like play kitchen sort of thing. A lot of like the Fisher Price sort of ones, plastic, a load of food and that. And I remember just seeing that, being like, wow, taking her over there, playing with her with it. I was like, look at this, look at that. Just nice and easy, and completely blanked the fact that there was, my dad had gone to a lot of effort to get me a computer that year. And that had been sat there right next to the kitchen the whole time, but because I was just so enthralled with this for my sister, I didn't even see that there. And I just remember my dad going, look over here, don't you want to have a look at this? And then it was a computer, and just one of the best Christmas experiences from when I was a kid.
I think the one I have to go for though, I was very young at the time. It was when my mum and dad were still together. And I remember this one Christmas, like, a whole heap of family came up from my mum and dad's side. Like aunties, uncles, grandparents, cousins. And I remember waking up Christmas morning, probably something stupid like 5 a.m. and it snowed outside. I remember coming downstairs and I was hyped. We all went outside and had the biggest snowball fight ever. It was hilarious. But it was just crazy, man. Family was everywhere, in every room, every sofa. And yeah, it was just like, as a kid, what you kind of expect Christmas to be like. Wake up to snow. That was better than the presents.
Megatron. Has to be Megatron. Yes, I mean Transformers. It was a present. He was purple and black. The brother looked sick. And he transformed into like a jet and a gargoyle and a two-headed dragon.
That was some fun times at Christmas though. One of the funniest memories was not too long ago. My mum decided she was going to try and get everyone smashed on Christmas Day. And she'd had this big 3-4 course Christmas dinner meal planned with drinks to go with every meal. And by the time it got to the mains, my mum was absolutely plastered. Me and my stepdad were just completely sober, and then the rest of the meal just went like that because she was just too drunk to do anything. And then she regretted it later on when everyone else was drunk and she was starting to come down. It was funny. That was a good time, that was.
My favourite memory of Christmas would have to be last year. It was probably the first year where my daughter really understood what was going on, and the look on her face when Santa had been and brought her presents was just amazing.
I love Christmas, man, but I think the weather, I suffer from SAD. Man, I can't deal with it.
I'm a winter person. Like, I'll be out there dancing in the wind and rain, jumping in puddles. Love it. And then as Christmas sinks in, my enthusiasm and my energy just decrease. And people are just outside and festive and weirdly happy for no reason. It freaks me out. I don't get it. I hate it.
Some of the most difficult things that I found with Christmas has come later in life as such. So, and when I moved away from home, I moved out of home. I didn't move that far. I found that financially it was a lot harder to juggle bills, rent, for instance, and buying of Christmas presents.
Not so much the most difficult thing at Christmas, but definitely something that's worried me more than it should have in the past, is the financial side. It's not just buying presents for people. You've got works nights out, secret Santas, nights out with your mates, and you can often find yourself wondering how you're going to be able to afford that in 1 month when you've got other bills to pay, things like that.
I remember going extremely low 1 or 2 Christmases in terms of money, and just the stress that brought with it. I felt like that I wasn't doing things right. I wasn't, because obviously budgeting was a thing that I had done, but not to the extent of this. I just felt like a failure in that sense. So I guess that brought me down a lot and made me just feel right. Well, I wouldn't go as far as depressed, but it did bring a lot of anxiety and sadness in that way, because I was anxious about, will I be able to pay my bills going forward, and what am I going to do about presents for other people. I know that presents shouldn't be the first thing on anyone's mind during Christmas, but unfortunately with living in the West, it is what a lot of the emphasis of Christmas is put on.
The financial side of things, you know, that's something I never get used to every year. And although having said that, now I'm older, I feel I've become a lot less materialistic. You know, you realize there's other things much more important than gifts and presents and money and this and cards.
The hardest thing for me around Christmas is also something I mentioned, is the one thing I think about mainly at Christmas is family. My mum and dad split when I was 12, so that put an end to going around my nan's for the parties and everyone being together. It changed Christmas dynamic a lot for us. Obviously being able to go to my dad's for a certain amount of time when I was younger, then my mum's and staying here and staying there sort of thing. And obviously that's gone on to being an adult as well, where as much as I'd love everyone to be able to get together at Christmas, I just can't see it happening. Which is a shame. It can get quite overwhelming because you've got to sort of try and manage your time between where you're going and who you're seeing and etc, etc. Especially now she's married, we've got Abby's family as well. And it's difficult because we won't ever be able to just get everyone together sort of thing, which I want really at Christmas. That's what I enjoy most. So that can be a struggle mentally as well, because you don't want to upset anyone. So you sort of try and split yourself around everywhere.
And aside even from my mum and dad, they broke up when I was very young, and Christmas here, Christmas there, Christmas here. Although it's double presents. One of my aunties, when I was about 8 or 9, I think she was 30 at the time. She became sick leading up to Christmas. We thought it was just a cold, or it seemed so. She got an infection and it spread, and she was in hospital, and yeah, she died Christmas Eve, man, and that hit the family hard, like really hard. Probably more so for the older generation, but even for me at 8 and 9 and my brothers and cousins, it was hard, man. And although I feel it's kind of brought us a bit closer together as a family, it's still a sad time of year, you know, kind of in that sense.
To be honest, I actually used to really enjoy Christmas when I was younger. We used to spend it sometimes here in England, sometimes in Nigeria, where my dad's from, sometimes in Guernsey, where my mum's from. And then after my dad passed, it just changed irrevocably. My dad was the center of the family, and you know, so, and this isn't a comment on anyone else in my family or anything, just every other Christmas since then feels like a reminder of what is missing, and I don't want any part of it. Like, obviously I know people who really enjoy Christmas and live for it, but then other people who do Christmas because that's what families do, and end up spending this time and forcing it with people that they don't like and have long-standing issues with, and just make themselves miserable. And then you have other people who put on the show and go above and beyond to make it special for their family, and just run themselves into the ground and have no time to enjoy themselves.
So my advice for people at Christmas who have difficulties is that you are your number one priority. You need to look after yourself before other people. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed, be it that you're struggling financially and can't afford to buy the gifts that you wish you could buy for people.
Obviously everybody's different, everybody's situation is different, everyone's going to suffer from different issues and it's going to affect them differently. I think like one of the main things that affects most people, I feel, is the monetary issues, finances.
Advice for anyone who feels like the financial burdens of Christmas are going to get the better of them is maybe budget. Put so much money away every month throughout the year, so you've not got that big one hit in December when you're buying presents, you've got your nights out, etc.
It's about being together and enjoying each other's company. It's not about things like that. For me anyway. It's not a competition. What other people you see on social media buy and put pictures up, you don't have to compete with that. it's not a competition.
You know, don't feel pressured. Don't feel pressured. You know, just because you can't afford to buy your kids a mountain of presents, you know, don't go out your way to do that. Just because so and so down the road has, they bought their kid the motocross bikes and Barbie dream house and all of this. It's irrelevant for them. You know, they can't take that on with them. Save the money, put it into a savings account for the child, man, and they can put it towards buying a house when they're older, or a car, or something similar. You know,
Live within your means. You know, you don't have to go out and spend hundreds of pounds on one person, when more than likely they'll appreciate any little thing you get them, especially if they really care about you.
of course, buy them presents. You know, if you, I'm not saying don't buy them gifts, but you know, in terms of the other family members as well, older people, handmade stuff. Christmas isn't about presents, man. It really isn't. It's a nice aspect of it, giving and receiving gifts, but it's not about that. You know, just, I think people need to just remember what Christmas is about, and just don't pressure yourself. Don't let that pressure come on you for having to compete. Social media is not a great help. Yeah, you know, if so and so down the road can afford that, good for them. If you can't, don't kill yourself trying to do it.
For me personally, it's just the worst time of year. I've always struggled to keep my depression under control, struggle with the suicidal thoughts more. Every other Christmas ends up with me taking a walk in the evening in the dark on Christmas Day, going nowhere, essentially.
It's really not good to bottle up all of your feelings when it comes to how you're feeling around that sort of time. If you are feeling anxious and down, really is worth sharing. I know for myself this was a difficult one. I'm not very good at sharing. Usually I don't like to talk to people about things. I tend to bottle it up, but it's something I'm working on. But you can speak to friends, family. They have been really useful for me in the past with dealing with situations.
Well, it's hard sometimes to just let go of your pride and speak to people. You know, let everyone know you have an issue. There's a problem. But just talk to people, man. You don't have to necessarily have to go bawling to their feet. Just tell them you're not feeling right in yourself, man. You're not feeling good, and maybe sit there and just give a brief explanation as to why. And you know, most people aren't idiots. They'll kind of come to the conclusion that you're not doing so good and you probably need a bit of help. Just reach out, man.
I would also say, if you're struggling mentally, speak to someone. There's a lot more people out there willing to listen than you might think. And all it can take is that one conversation can make you feel a million times better.
If you're being affected by anything, and not just at Christmas, any time of year, just seek help. Ask somebody. You know, everyone has somebody, whether it's a friend or a work colleague or a family member. Even if you're not that close to them, even if you don't have anybody and it's a damn stranger in the street, go and reach out. Just speak to people. Especially around Christmas, you know, people at that time of year kind of brings out the best in a lot of people, I feel.
You do have organisations like Samaritans, for instance. If you're feeling terribly low, or even don't have to feel terrible, if you're feeling low, they are really good to just talk to and talk through things.
I think being an introvert and having social anxiety and being autistic, all of it is just very stressful for me. Just the thought of it. And that makes me feel more isolated than at any other time of the year. You know, and it's difficult to explain that to people who genuinely love it. Like they just can't get their heads around it. And, you know, I'm a hypocrite as well, because I'm sit here and say, you know, speak up about mental health and talk to someone and all that. And when this project's done, I'm going to go sit in a dark room and hide again. It's just difficult.
Don't isolate yourself. Definitely not. I know for some people it would work, but cutting yourself off is probably the worst thing I could imagine doing in that situation. because it allows you to stew on your own thoughts and feelings, and talking about it is always the way I'd go forward.
Just remember the things that make you happy and keep that close. So if you enjoy being with family at Christmas, do that. If you enjoy spending time on your own at Christmas, do that. It doesn't matter if people don't agree, because at the end of the day, you've got to do what makes you happy, and everyone should understand that.
For me, it comes down to keeping connected. So that could be with your friends, your family, your partner, your dog, definitely your dog. Like keeping tethered somehow. So for me, that means getting through it the best way I can, as unscathed as possible. Which basically equates to vodka and video games. And eating fajitas on Christmas. Because I like fajitas. I got told off for it, but I enjoy myself, so.
It's a time for everyone to, well, the time for goodwill, apparently. So everyone should respect your decisions on things like that.
Anyway, Merry Christmas to everybody, and all the best for the new year.
We all have our own difficulties and fights that we face. Men have many particular ones. We couldn't begin to address them all in a single video, you know, whether we're talking about the pressure on men to create and provide these magical experiences every year for their partners and children. We could talk about single dads and the struggles they face. We can talk about men everywhere fighting a bias system, which means that they don't get to see their children on Christmas. What I hope is that this video can be a starting point for people to reflect and look after their mental health and speak to someone. That could be one of the organisations that I included at the start. It could be one of your friends or family members. It could be a stranger if that's what you feel comfortable with. It can be me. I don't hold great social conversation, but I'm always happy to listen. Don't suffer in silence. Thank you for watching, and thank you again to everybody who contributed to making this video in any way, shape or form. I hope it reaches you, I hope it connects with you, and I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays and a Happy New Year. Look after yourselves.